Welcome to NZ Pocket Guide, New Zealand's largest travel guide. Visit nzpocketguide.com for thousands of tips, hidden gems, and ways to plan the perfect trip in New Zealand. This is a readout of an article available for free on the website. Check out the link in the description and let's get started. The cheapest ways to travel around New Zealand. The cheapest transport to get around New Zealand. New Zealand is pretty easy to get around despite its challenging terrain of lakes, mountains and rivers. The roads are where it's at, so find the cheapest ways to travel around New Zealand in this guide. We compare the estimated prices of getting around New Zealand, as well as share a few tips. You can find more tips, however, in the Travel Guide to New Zealand on a Budget on nzpocketguide.com. Should you hitchhike around New Zealand? The cheapest way to travel around New Zealand is to hitchhike because it's free. But should you hitchhike? Hitchhiking is legal in New Zealand and plenty of people do it. It can be a great way to travel if you're not on a tight schedule and you're happy to go with the flow. Of course, there's always an element of risk, so check out our safety tips in our Hitchhiker's Guide to New Zealand. National coaches. By far the cheapest way to travel around New Zealand. The national bus service is run by Intercity. The coach service has the largest number of stops in New Zealand at 600 and is worth considering if you truly want to create a personalised itinerary on the cheap. There are three main ways to pay for Intercity buses. One-way tickets. You can pay for each individual route on the Intercity bus. Approximate route prices are as follows. Auckland to Wellington, $50 New Zealand dollars advance booking, $80 New Zealand dollars last minute. Auckland to Taupo, $45 New Zealand dollars advance, $70 New Zealand dollars last minute. Auckland to Bay of Islands, $30 New Zealand dollars advanced, $45 New Zealand dollars last minute. Picton to Christchurch, $65 New Zealand dollars advanced, $85 New Zealand dollars last minute. Christchurch to Queenstown, $60 New Zealand dollars advanced, $115 New Zealand dollars last minute. Franz Josef to Wanaka, $35 New Zealand dollars advanced, $55 New Zealand dollars last minute. Flexi Pass. The Intercity Flexi Pass is a way to pay for your bus trips in advance. Purchase a number of hours, then spend those hours on the bus routes you want. You can always add on hours to your pass later if needed. It's also worth mentioning that hours can be spent on the ferry between the North Island and South Island and some tours. The approximate prices for hours are as follows. 10 hours, 100 New Zealand dollars. 40 hours, 350 New Zealand dollars. 80 hours, 560 New Zealand dollars. Intercity has special maps to show how many hours it takes to get between destinations. Note that it might not be the literal hours it takes. As an example, it takes just under 10 hours to do a Bay of Islands trip from Auckland and back or to travel directly from Auckland to Wellington. On the South Island, it takes approximately 11 hours to travel from Picton to Queenstown directly. Travel Pass. Finally, you can purchase tickets for structured routes around New Zealand. The benefit of these is that there's less planning involved for the traveller. Plus, many of their routes include tours. The approximate prices for Travel Pass are: Auckland to Bay of Islands return, including cruise, $125 New Zealand dollars. Loop of South Island Incorporated cruise, $550 New Zealand dollars. Backpacker bus tours. Offering more than just a bus service, backpacker bus tours are tours on set routes around New Zealand. You'll have a bus driver who is also your travel guide, stopping at scenic stops and short walks on your journey. While hop-on hop-off bus tours have drivers who also act as your travel agent, booking accommodation and activities on your behalf. Fully guided bus tours include all accommodation, some activities and some meals. The cost of backpacker bus tours. While bus tour companies have tours that last as little as a weekend, the best deals are the tours that last 10 days or longer. For comparison, here are the approximate prices for 10-day passes on some of New Zealand's most popular backpacker bus tours. Kiwi Experience, $600 New Zealand dollars. Stray, $1,000 New Zealand dollars. Backyard Roadies, 2,000 New Zealand dollars, incorporated accommodation, some meals and some activities. Haka Tours, 3,300 New Zealand dollars, incorporated accommodation, some meals and some activities. G Adventures, 4,500 New Zealand dollars, incorporated accommodation, some meals and some activities. Get a price per day of travel. Another way to compare the price of bus tours is to work out how much the tour costs per day. To do that, find out the minimum days of travel of a pass that is stated on the brochure or on the website. Then divide the price of a pass by its minimum day of travel. You will get a price per day of travel. For that price, remember you may get some of these things included: transportation plus many stops along the way plus some activities plus commentary plus some meals plus all accommodation. Remember that the hop-on hop-off buses don't have all of these inclusions. See how to budget for a hop-on hop-off bus trip around New Zealand on nzpocketguide.com for more advice. Car rental. Be completely in control of your own road trip around New Zealand by renting a car. Car rental prices fluctuate even more than bus tour prices, so budgeting for a road trip with a car rental can be a little trickier. Nevertheless, you'll find some of the cheapest rentals in New Zealand at the following prices. In winter, June to August, 20 New Zealand dollars per day with included insurance or 45 New Zealand dollars per day with add-on insurance. In summer, December to March, 45 New Zealand dollars per day with included insurance or 70 New Zealand dollars per day with add-on insurance. In spring/autumn, April, May, September and October, 35 New Zealand dollars per day with included insurance or 60 New Zealand dollars per day with add-on insurance. Additional costs, such as fuel and one-way fees, may need to be taken into consideration. Fuel, petrol, per litre, 2 New Zealand dollars, 7 New Zealand dollars and 57 cents per gallon. One-way fees, up to 250 New Zealand dollars. Additional driver, 10 New Zealand dollars. Campervan rental. Finally, campervan rental is something that many travellers consider for travelling around New Zealand. Although it's not as cheap as the transport methods mentioned above, it can still be one of the cheapest ways to travel around New Zealand if choosing budget campervan rentals. Although a campervan is also your accommodation, you will find that you still need to pay for holiday parks and campsites even if you're freedom camping a few times. Find out more about the cost of a campervan holiday with accommodation included here. You'll find some of the cheapest rentals in New Zealand at the following prices. In summer, December to March, 200 New Zealand dollars per day with included insurance or 250 New Zealand dollars per day with add-on insurance. In spring/autumn, April, May, September and October, 160 New Zealand dollars per day with included insurance or 195 New Zealand dollars per day with add-on insurance. In winter, June to August, 100 New Zealand dollars per day with included insurance or 130 New Zealand dollars per day with add-on insurance. Additional costs, such as fuel and one-way fees, may need to be taken into consideration. Fuel, petrol, per litre, 2 New Zealand dollars, 7 New Zealand dollars and 57 cents per gallon. One-way fees, up to 250 New Zealand dollars. Additional driver, 10 New Zealand dollars. For more advice on campervan rental, see the Essential Guide to Renting a Campervan in New Zealand on nzpocketguide.com. That's it for this article. Hit like and subscribe to say thank you, and remember, this article is available for free on nzpocketguide.com. Check out the link in the description. Plus, there are thousands of articles for you to plan the perfect New Zealand holiday.